Hello Internet, it is me, the E-Man. So a couple weeks ago, EB Games announced on social media that they would be no more, and instead, they would be replaced with GameStop Canada. Now this is of no real surprise to anyone, considering EB Games, formerly Electronic Boutique, has been owned by GameStop for as long as I certainly can remember. In fact, on most of the EB Games promotional stuff we have here, right on the back, it has both the GameStop and the EB Games logo. And to be perfectly honest, most Canadian gamers' reaction to the news was, huh, that's pretty dumb. Followed by an abrupt, oh my god, what does that mean about my Edge card? Well, as it would turn out, it meant nothing. On the day of the announcement, there was a small, and I mean very small, drop of panic in the overflowing sea of indifference, until the next day when they updated the post and explained that nothing was going to change except the sign above the door. And when asked why, it turned out because they were just tired of making EB Games labeled pamphlets in Canada and GameStop labeled pamphlets in the States. And now they can just make one batch of pamphlets, although EB Games still apparently exists in Australia, but I suppose their pamphlets are so drastically different from ours that it doesn't matter. Although our pamphlets are in Canadian pricing, and I assume the GameStop ones are in American pricing, so are they gonna have both prices on the pamphlets now instead of having two pamphlets, or are we gonna get American prices and just have to deal with it? I don't know. The whole thing's really dumb. They did also make an FAQ about what's gonna change, or relatively what's not gonna change, and I thought that would be kind of fun to look at. And in the end, really, Canadians have just basically lost one thing to be smug about, and we don't have that many of those, so that's kind of a shame. Alright, so let's take a look at the FAQ. So the first question is the big one everyone wanted to know. What does the GameStop rebranding mean for Edge card users, and will everything stay the same? And the answer is, of course, there will be no changes to the Edge program at this time. Your benefits will continue, your cards will stay active, but it does at the bottom say that newly branded cards will be given when ours expire. So I actually asked the manager of my favorite EB Games store, and she said that we might not be getting GameStop branded Edge cards. And in fact, since the cards they have in the States, which I think they're like player rewards cards or something, they're terrible, I've been told. They don't have the same kind of benefits, although I think Americans get physical copies of Game Informer, and we only get digital copies, and that's pretty lame. If I want a physical copy of Game Informer, even though I'm a Platinum member, I still have to pay for it, and that's annoying. But apparently the GameStops in the States might actually be abandoning their cards and adapting the Canadian card program. But that's hearsay, and I don't know that for sure, but that's what I heard from a real employee. Okay, this next question is really funny. What will GameStop be called in Quebec? We will be opening as GameStop in Quebec as well. Okay, so if you don't know, Quebec is the only province in Canada that's French only, right? And they have language laws there, and the language secret police will actually call businesses, and if they answer in English first instead of answering in French first, they'll get fined, and it's nuts. Okay, Quebec is just bonkers. So there's a bunch of stores in Quebec that have a weird name instead of the name that they have everywhere else. So I'm really glad that they're gonna be GameStop, because they were EB Games even in Quebec. So I'm glad they're gonna be GameStop and not like Arrête jeux vidéo or something, dumb. Okay, the next question is actually just kind of sad and naive. Will GameStop Canada have the same prices as GameStop in the United States? No! No, of course the prices will remain in Canadian dollars, because on a global scale, our currency is glorified monopoly money. We're still doomed to pay $90 for a single PS5 game. There's no worming out of that. Okay, so this one just absolutely proves that nothing of value is changing. Will you get the same GameStop exclusives? We currently share and will continue to have access to some of the GameStop US exclusives, while also securing Canadian-only exclusives as well. In my mind, this question in particular serves as definitive proof that nothing is changing, and the two stores are going to basically stay completely separate, and the only thing that's changing is the cost of pamphlet printing. Okay, I was actually really disappointed about this one. Does this mean that the EBX stores will be renamed? And the answer was all the EBX locations will just be branded as GameStop. So EBXs haven't actually existed that long. I think they only came out 2, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and they're just like double-sized EB Games. And half of that is pop figures, which is pretty lame. But there's like one in Ottawa that I go to at the Bayshore Mall, and the few times I've been there, they've actually had a pretty good selection of used games there. So this is really disappointing. I guess the size won't change, but it does kind of suck that it won't have any kind of special branding based off of the size. Like GameStop Extreme or something, you know? Here we go. Is this just a temporary brand change? Because you have tried this before in the past. This is a permanent logo change. Previously, we had tried the dual brand strategy, like you saw on that Skyrim pre-order case, that quickly highlighted the need to focus on one major brand in the Canadian market. Yeah, so to be completely fair, in recent years, we haven't really had that dual branding stuff. I remember back in the GameCube era, EB Games would just sell all the GameStop branded third-party controllers and accessories. And then around the 7th console generation, we had that dual branding stuff. And recently on all the Biogenic brand stuff, the EB Games in-house, which I think is the same as the GameStop in-house brand, everything has just been EB Games with like that maple leaf symbol. Honestly, I think that's what people are really going to miss the most and are probably the most upset about, is just that we're going to lose that Canadian-themed branding. You know, it's a little bit of pride and patriotism, and even though it's going to be, you know, GameStop Canada tacked on the end, if the whole point is to produce only one set of things for both countries, there's no way GameStop Canada is going to have a maple leaf next to it on our packaging. So, you know, it's just kind of disappointing, I think, is really what it is. Alright, here's the cool question. Can I have one of your old store signs? And they said we are currently evaluating several options for the EB Games store signs, including an option for charity, so stay tuned. Now again, I asked a couple employees if they think that that's really going to happen, and they said yes. They said that internal memos are pretty leaning towards that being a real thing. And there is no way in heck that I could afford one of the neon EB Games signs, but you better believe I will look into buying one of those, because I desperately want one. And I think they're also going to be selling like the plastic, like acrylic letters that are inside the store as well. So those might be cheaper, and I don't know. And if it goes for charity, you know, whatever, I could see maybe spending like a couple $100s on one of these, but I imagine some of the signs will go for several thousand, presumably. But that's still really cool that they're going to do that, hopefully. Alright, and finally, will your policies, like your return policy, change to match GameStop in the United States? And no, like everything else, our policies are going to stay exactly the same. So yeah, that's kind of it. It is basically a nothing topic, but I did really want to talk about it, even though I'm 2 weeks late. I think most people are just kind of disappointed that we're going to lose that, you know, local exclusive to Canada branding. Even though the company is owned by Americans, it was still nice that, you know, Canadians had our own little thing. Like, oh, you got that dirty GameStop down there in the south, but up here north, we've got EB Games. We are superior. And also, because GameStop does have such a negative reputation, EB Games doesn't, because when you go to the counter, they might ask you if you're an Edge member, but they're not going to try to force feed you some kind of ultra mega reward gamer email scheme thing. They're pretty good here in Canada about not shoving that down your throat. I mean, obviously, I still prefer thrift finding games because it's the cheapest, and then supporting independent game stores or flea market dealers. But for special editions, EB Games is still my go-to place. In the last month, I've been to 4 EB Games, and I've gotten 4 special editions, and as you can see by my selection, I have impeccable taste. And hey, even though EB Games might be gone, at least we'll always have those little yellow stickers to remember them by, because let's face it, those things are still going to be there even after the heat death of the universe. Anyway, that's my video about the GameStop Canada name change. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again on whatever I decide to do next real soon. Goodbye! Could you tell I didn't have an ending scripted?